Derek.
How you doing?
Very big
Yeah, I will, yeah, I would like to have this opportunity to go right to
Sure. All right, folks, we're about ready to start this evening. We'll start with public hearing for the 2025 tentative budget. Remember, this is a public hearing, it's not a question and answers. It is, we're here to listen to what you have to say. Okay. Anyone have anyone to say about the 2025 tentative budget at all? Okay, with that, I'll close the public hearing and we'll start with our meeting. Thank you all. All right, first off, there's been a request from the gallery that we announce who we all are. So, Don Smith, supervisor.
Garrett Sitz, councilman.
Heather Ross, councilwoman.
Eddie Story, councilperson.
Dwight Bruno, councilperson, deputy supervisor.
Sonia Johns, town clerk.
Jamie Archibald, highway superintendent.
Paul Warner, Deputy Physical Officer.
Thank you. All right, please everyone rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With that, I'd like to move forward with, to get it out of the way, being there wasn't much anything. Is there any more comments or statements relevant to the 2025 tentative budget? Can I have a motion to accept it as is?
I'll make the motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, so carried. All right, with that, Sonia, we're ready to do the minutes from last month's meeting.
The regular meeting was called to order at 7:35 p.m. by Donnie Smith, supervisor. Present were Donnie Smith, Dwight Bruno, Heather Ross, Garrett Sitz, Teddy Story, Paul Warner, Jamie Archibald, and Greg Petula. The minutes were read from the September 3rd meeting. Garrett Sitz made the motion to approve the minutes as read. Teddy Story seconded the motion. All present agreed. There was no report from KECC this month. Jamie Archibald said the speed limit signs are in and installed for Case Hill Road. All radios have been received and installed. $356,329.96 has been received in CHIPS money. They have done 1.25 miles of paving, and they've been hot patching roads, getting ready for winter. Greg said that he has scheduled inspections for a few short-term rentals. He's going to send out certified letters to the owners that haven't responded. He's done inspections on houses under construction, some municipal searches. He's had no complaints this month. For the planning board, Teddy reported that North Star Farm Stays Campground has been approved with a few stipulations. He knows he needs to come before the board before he makes any changes. Michael Abate was approved for his dog grooming, training, boarding kennel. The kennels will be soundproof and no dog outside after 7 p.m. Someone will be available 24/7. The Kellogg School Building has been approved for meat, fish, and cannabis processing center. The event center at the Kellogg School has been tabled for now. Sonia said the ability to accept credit cards is in the works and should be ready soon. Paul Warner went over the preliminary budget. Teddy Story made a motion to approve the preliminary budget as presented. Dwight Bruno seconded the motion. All present agreed. A public hearing will be held on November 6, 2025 at 6 p.m. on the preliminary budget at the town garage. The county has approved that any town court in the county can implement a traffic diversion program for traffic tickets to help speed up the process. A few residents were at the meeting to ask for help or advice because one of their neighbors had started playing loud music with speakers outside, pointing away from their house all day long, even if they weren't there. Greg said he will start by paying them a visit and go from there. Heather made a motion to go into executive session for personnel. Dwight seconded the motion, all present agreed. The board returned from executive session at 8:56 p.m. The board voted to accept the Teamster contract. Garrett made the motion to accept it. Teddy seconded the motion, all present agreed. Heather made a motion to buy the code enforcer a laptop with remaining ARPA money. Teddy seconded the motion, all present agreed. Jamie said the bid items on Auctions Unlimited are as follows. Pickup truck, $8,100, tractor, $6,300, mower, $510, and dump truck, $7,700. Garrett made the motion to accept all bids except for the dump truck at $7,700. Heather seconded the motion, all present agreed. Jamie asked for permission to look for a sander to put on pickup truck not to exceed $8,000. Dwight made the motion for Jamie to look for the sander not to exceed $8,000. Heather seconded the motion, all present agreed. With nothing further to come before the board, the meeting was adjourned at 9:10 p.m.
Okay, thank you, Second. Any corrections? All right. I have a motion to accept,
I'll make a motion.
seconded,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you. With that, report from KECC.
We had a, I'm sorry. Oh, you meant Rex and then
I didn't make the meeting. Lori's here. If you-
Lori, would
I
you
can
like
tell
to
you
speak
what's
on
going
behalf?
on.
If you would,
Lori
please.
Tiger, please.
Financially, we're doing well. We had an open house in October with a few attendees. They had a trapping class, informational class, and the end of October with several attendees. We painted the trim. Porta potty's gone for this year. We made a few changes in the SOPs, the standard operating, so clear up the language a little bit. So, we're doing all right. I think we're finished unless anything major comes up until spring.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Lori.
Highway Super.
Over the last month, we completed the shoulder project on a few of the roads that we paved. We working on some ditching and just prepping trucks for the winter. All the auction equipment has been picked up and paid for. The dump truck we counter offered and did not receive anything, but we did receive an offer from the town of Westford. So I'd like a resolution to accept their amount of $10,000 for the purchase of the truck.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept that?
I make a motion to accept the 10,000 for the truck.
Any second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried.
That's all I got. I do need short amount of time in executive session for personnel matter.
Personnel. Thank you, Jamie. Recreation Committee.
Our last meeting was canceled, so we don't have any updates.
Speak up, I can't hear you, so.
I said our last meeting was canceled, so I don't have any updates.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Code Enforcement Greg's not here. Planning Board, Teddy, please.
I sent copies of the minutes to all board members. I hope you received them. The biggest order of business at the October 3rd meeting was the Jonas Shaw Event Lodging Hotel Motel Special Use Permit. He came in with an initial proposal to use 13 large rooms with 8 occupants per room, and then 3 smaller rooms with a maximum occupancy of 116 people. It was calculated at 50 gallons per day per person, which would equal about 5,800 gallons of water outflow. So after much discussion, Mr. Shaw said that he would reduce the maximum occupancy to 38 per night with 250 people at any events, including the overnight guests, but subsequent to that, we've gotten an update and his plans are changing again, so. Anyway, that's it, it's still on hold.
Thank you, Teddy. Okay, with that, we'll move on to old business. We've addressed the budget already, and that's done with credit cards.
The credit cards in my office are up and running for the town clerk, and by the time taxes are out, we'll be able to do those too, and they'll be able to do them online, so,
That's awesome, so
Yeah.
thank you.
yeah.
Good, that's great. That'll be a big help, won't it?
Mm-hmm.
All right. With that, we'll move forward to new business, and with that, I have someone to introduce from Coughlin Gerhardt, is our attorney, Gina Middleton. If I say that correct?
You did, yes.
Please stand up if you don't mind.
Yep, of course. Hi, how is everybody? So I just wanted to come and meet everybody just because I was just reassigned. I know you had Ryan Knapp previously. I have a tendency to prefer to meet the people that I'm working with, and I know sometimes it's a little bit easier to communicate with me once you've met me. My background with Coughlin Gerhardt, I've been with them for about 4 years. Primary practice is municipal, so I represent a lot of towns, villages, municipalities in Tioga and Broome, primarily. We're expanding out into Delaware a little bit, partially here. I've been doing the municipal work for about 4 years, specializing largely in litigation pieces, code enforcement and dog, but I do planning board, zoning board, and everything else in between as well. Secondary practice is landlord, tenant, and real estate, so that sometimes ties in a little bit as well. Happy to answer any questions that you may have. I wanted to get my contact information to everybody so that you're comfortable contacting me, reaching out if you need anything, but holistically, I just wanted to meet the board. Every town operates differently, and I kind of wanted to get a feel of how this town operates, how you operate, and kind of just meet the board members as a whole.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, of
Much
course,
appreciated.
absolutely, absolutely happy to,
Thank you, Gina.
of course.
Okay. With that, is there any other new business to come? Anyone else have anything? No. Okay, with that, we'll open the discussion to the floor. Public? Please.
Go ahead.
We're gonna meet again with Jonah Shaw tomorrow on the Treadwell School. He's already got a special permit for meat, fish, and cannabis processing. He's still looking for a special permit for a hotel, motel, and event center. The planning board, majority is concerned how it impacts the hamlet, including the use of the water and noise and lighting. Another concern is liability for the town of Franklin. If one of the guests should venture out into the town property, like on fields or tennis courts, if they do some kind of arrangement with whoever runs that position, and they get hurt, what's going to stop them from suing the town? I didn't know if Jonah should have an insurance policy against that. If the town, I don't know what the town has. I know that the pavilion, I think, has an insurance policy for the pavilion, but I'm not sure about the rest of it. So he suggested that he has all his people sign a waiver, and I don't know how good waivers are. That's why you're here. So that's one. That's one of the major questions, and then let's see. That might be difficult to have 250 people that are coming in like for a wedding to actually sign a waiver.
Yeah.
You know.
I have some concerns with traffic on that street with everybody coming in, because it's tight as it is.
Yeah.
And a lot of those residents like to park on
Well,
the
that's
street.
why Teddy told you that we're down to 39, because that's if they had 5 people per car, they could handle that parking. And they can actually handle up to 116, depending on how many employees they're manufacturing at the time.
He also wants to use the fields, the KECC fields,
Correct.
for his.
But that's between the town and the KEC to make an arrangement. He's willing to, so he says, to pay, but still, you got a liability there.
He was gonna have his tenants pay an extra fee or something to use.
Because he might have baseball
Use the
people, they might
grounds.
want to, have a couple, 3 families might want to go down the field and play a little baseball, you know, between they're playing 24/7 and Cooperstown, I don't think you got much time there. But
It is a public
yeah, it's a public place.
place.
And I don't know how,
And we're public, but we're local. We're not gonna like sue each other, I don't think. But if you get somebody coming in from who knows where, and they break a
from
toll,
Texas or
they're
wherever.
gonna,
Wasn't that the communication that we just received from him also, did that include something about having events outside as well? Because the last that you were dealing with the planning board, is that all events would be held indoors?
That's what he has actually told us, I thought, but that's not what he's claiming now. So
right. because
I
when it
sent,
came-
everybody got, I don't know if you saw your emails or not, but I think you all got a copy of his last proposal, so.
I think there's another element in this too, and I think Treadwell Water could get involved, the concern with,
Well,
where I think that, you know, that's where Cedarwood is gonna come into effect. I mean,
the problem is there's no control right now, there's no, you can't do this, no, you can't do
I
that.
don't
you
think
know.
he really,
There's no laws on the
the
water.
last meeting that Cedarwood was at and Jonah was at, Jonah didn't like to hear all the facts that were presented before him, but I don't think we can really argue them because it was from the engineer, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? So I think it's important Cedarwood, once again, is involved, considering municipal water.
I don't know
is so
how,
important.
during dry times, how low that reservoir gets, you know? And it's more likely in the summer when he's gonna have most of his events too, so.
Yeah, a lot of it's gonna depend on the demand, so. And
Well,
again, that's where Cedarwood
It-
will be able to kind
it was
of,
50 gallons per
Estimate.
person.
Yeah, well,
Right,
if he's
but
talking
if you-
5,800 gallons. the
5,800
outflow,
gallons if you
It's
had-
gotta inflow
If
first.
he had 116 people, so we got him
Yeah.
down to 39 right now, he'd have to come back if he wants to increase.
right. Because what I'm saying is, a lot of this is, there's some unknowns in terms of, at least from what I've been able to garner from Cedarwood, you know, how much of the well's gonna produce.
Yeah.
They should be fine,
The
but.
new ones or the old ones?
The new ones.
Well, we're
Um,
worried about the old ones right now.
Right, but we have to worry about
Right.
both. I mean, so whatever that figure is gonna be based on what his plans are. And from what I've heard, at least kind of sitting in the back of the planning board meetings, is that sometimes he's not real exact on what he wants, or maybe he is, but I don't.
We've been
Yeah,
pushing it to
yeah.
get exactly what do you
Exactly.
want.
So we can make it, you know, so a decision can be made, because that's what the engineer's gonna say, what are you gonna do? What do you want it for? And if we can't
And
get
I'm
an
not sure
answer
if
to
he
that-
is not, you know, wouldn't lean towards
I
paying
think
for the
that's a
wells or
strong
something.
point for you and your board too, is until he's willing to give that, they don't have to give the permit, you know?
Give what?
The exact figures and plans and ideas of what he intends to do.
Well, he's down to 39 people, which I think we, you know, it's in control at that point, but once he gets going over 100, staying there, then it's, you know, then it's gonna be a problem, right now
I think his new
especially.
proposal was back to the original figures. What he sent in the mail is back to the original of 116.
Well, he hasn't got that yet. 39's where he's at.
No. The one thing I think that the planning board can do is, if it was decided that they wanted to give a permit, you can still have mitigations as to going back to, you can't have more than 250 people here at one time. You cannot have events outdoors. You cannot have lighting or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of mitigations that we can do, and anything that goes above and beyond what is, you can stop me at any time. Anything that goes above and beyond what is permitted in the special use permit, he would have to come back for a new permit to expand his
Well, the other
business.
thing on the water, I was just thinking just now, was like processing any type of food or anything takes a certain volume of water. Is that also being calculated on top of what his supposed gas levels are?
Well, he has a figure for that, what he uses right now, where he's at.
Because
So it would add another, what was it?
They're gonna run
I think it was like
simultaneously.
300 gallons or something
Yeah,
like
and,
that.
and all that's gonna be contingent on, you know, what, again, what are the wells, between the wells on the hill and the new wells, what is the system gonna be able to provide?
Right.
So, you know, the frustrating part for me is, we can have all these discussions, but until we know what the capacity is, you can't really answer the question.
That's true, but that's why
So-
we, you know, he was starting like way up
Yeah.
here, we've got him
Yeah.
way down here, and then
And
if
it's
you want more,
probably, it's probably fine, maybe, but
39
again,
people, you know.
that's what Cedarwood's getting.
That's
you know,
not thirty,
paid
that's
for.
not 7 days a week, but it could be,
Yeah,
but,
yeah,
you know.
and I'm not an engineer, so I can't answer
Right.
that, but they can probably, you know, I'm sure they'll be able to.
I thought originally that he was doing an event center, but now it's a hotel motel event center, so he could have something happening someplace else, and then they have to rent the whole place. He doesn't rent one room or two rooms. If you want it, you gotta rent the whole place.
So what did he change his idea to renting the whole place to? Because when he came, were you there, Garrett, when he came to the KECC and he wanted to have it as an event center for, if you had a business and you wanted your employees to go and have a
Or
meeting
yoga
and
center,
and a
yoga
retreat, or
something.
have yoga and use the flats, and then he wanted more people for a music event and involve the fire department and the emergency squad, direct traffic, and you get some money, and these people would get money, and
We were talking, the last
it
thing,
wasn't, you had big ideas,
the
but.
last thing we're most worried about is traffic on Church Street and people parking wherever they want to. He said, well, I can put somebody at the head of Church Street. You don't know who belongs there, who doesn't belong there.
It's a
They got a
public-
one business on Church Street, could be anybody going, you know.
It's a
to that
public
business.
And
road.
it's residential,
It's a
not
public
business
road.
Yeah,
district.
it's a public road, right. He could stop them going into his place, you know what I mean, and check, but.
Well, the other, you
Go ahead.
could open the gate and scrape the road down that is, then it would be two ways they can get in and out.
Oh,
Bring your little
Back
broom
wagon.
up and.
behind the barn, I mean,
Yeah.
We love that.
that road hasn't been used.
At one time, Laura, we discussed about a fence.
Yes.
Has Kate, have they discussed that anymore?
We haven't suggested that yet.
We haven't.
We haven't got through what we're doing now, much less, you know.
Well, we didn't
my
know about
thing is
fencing or just posting that beyond this point
As a
is.
special use permit, that could be, but if someone from KEC, if that's something they would like, I think that's something he should accommodate with some.
I mean, it doesn't have to be
It doesn't have to be a fence, it could
Just-
just be signage.
it could be a snow fence, as long as they
So-
know they can't get past that
Beyond
point.
this point is, just so the people that are there will
Because
know
people-
where their boundaries are.
If they're
Well, he
staying,
had suggested giving everybody a little map of the,
his property.
yeah.
The other thing is, there's not gonna be somebody there at night, so they can just get out and start wandering all over the place, you know?
It's
But
just
it's not
something I
gonna-
thought would make a very clear order, like, we spoke that one time
About
about, and I,
fence.
that's something that he clearly, if he wants, that he could.
Do it cheap enough.
But I don't want KECC to foot that whole bill for fencing to keep.
No, he paid the bill to fence it. His own property.
Right, that would be his
I
responsibility.
mean, as I said, a snow fence, anything that, you know, I mean, people are gonna, if they wanna get in there, they're gonna get in there no matter what,
Right.
you know, so.
But he should establish that boundary line,
And
so
being
that
a,
way
Yes.
being a public park, it's kinda hard to
Keep them out. but
say no, you know?
It just makes it more clear for people to realize that
rather-
this is not part of,
Right, unless
That
you
whole
paid
thing,
for it
this is-
already and got a
this is-
thing.
you know.
Yeah.
As far as the liability, I think that's kind of where Gina comes into play
wire
pretty
and
heavily,
electric.
so.
Good fences make good neighbors.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of liability, I mean, the liability isn't gonna be all that much more expanded unless you're allowing them to take place in the property, because it sounds like, and again, I mean, it's the first time I've heard about this, but unless we're allowing them to use the park and we've loaned it to them essentially, the liability is gonna be the same as any other public individual that, you know, goes into your park or goes into your area, and it's gonna be whether you had reasonable notification of whatever the defect or claimed defect is. I can't promise you that no one's gonna sue you, because people just do it for fun. There's nothing to stop someone from filing a lawsuit, but in terms of defensibility, you
You're
know.
talking about people like baseball, they could be coming from Texas, they could be coming from anywhere in the
Yeah,
United
it's not
States.
an argument
Just
of
our
whether they're
local
willing to sue you, it's whether they have a case.
Right,
Oh,
I understand that. but-
Yeah, and so, I mean, in terms of liability, you know, the fencing idea feels like a good one just to kind of identify.
Establish a boundary.
Correct, just to establish the boundaries, it is a public park, so people can enter, but, I mean, I think it's more of a just showing individuals where it stops and where it starts.
Is there such a thing, would there be a way of asking the property owner, the event owner, to to make the town co-insured or have a hold harmless claim? Is there any way of doing that where he would hold the insurance?
Yeah, so the town could hypothetically ask to be added as a beneficiary essentially to their insurance policy. The issue being that I don't know that he's gonna be able to find an insurance agent who's gonna be willing to insure beyond his own property line. So that's the issue that you're gonna run into. Obviously, if there's some sort of claim, the town's insurance should theoretically cover it, so as soon as a claim is made, it goes to the town's insurance. So the answer is yes, but the likelihood that they're gonna find an insurer that expands insurance beyond his property is slim to none, because honestly, I don't even know that he has the legal ability to gain insurance into your property.
And signing a waiver would,
Yeah, I mean, waivers are
until they find.
hypothetically useful. Yeah, I mean, so waivers are one of those things, like, to compare it to like a lease agreement, we have a lot of provisions in lease agreements that aren't, we can't really enforce them when we get to court, but they're there as like a warning shot. So waivers are effective in terms of telling people, you know, you're waiving these rights. Whether we can actually enforce them in court is a very different question, and it very much is dependent on the case, what the claims are, and all of those various aspects. And on top of that, I mean, it would be a question, like you said, of whether they're actually obtaining waivers from that, however many people they have there.
But the other thing is, how are they gonna do that?
Yeah, and then how is
Especially if
there gonna
people
be
come in from a
accountability?
wedding, they're not gonna,
Well, it's changing the whole tone and tenure of the way the park and the grounds around the school were developed. It was developed as a school, and then it was developed as a small park for the community. Now we're involving possibly hundreds of people, where I'm sure alcohol is going to be involved, to suddenly have access to playground equipment, tennis courts and whatever. And of course,
there's
I'm
exercise
speaking for,
equipment
like,
there
as a
too.
council member and the representative to the planning board, I think it's,
When you put up a sign that says enter at your own risk,
I mean, so that is honestly, you can do that, but it's gonna be the same broadly applicable concept as it would be to any other individual.
They're gonna
But I
say,
mean,
I didn't get
talking-
in that way, I got in this way.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's hard to post around every entrance unless it's a fenced off area, but I mean, along the lines of what you were saying in terms of looking at the use of the land and whether it, you know, coincides with the surrounding area, it's a relevant factor to consider by the planning board, which I'm sure is part of the way that we got down to 39 instead of a whatever, how many
I don't think
hundred he was
that's
at.
right.
Well,
that's-
that's mostly to do with the septic at this point, can only handle so much unless he enlarges the septic, he can't have more than 39 at this point. But if he enlarges the septic and he wants to go 116, then we're into the water.
yeah, if they're
Does he have
talking
enough room to
5,800
enlarge the
gallons
septic
outflow,
on
they're
his
talking
property?
5,800
Oh, I'm sure.
gallons inflow as well.
because
Yeah,
I know the septic is toward just before the tennis courts, it is quite a big place, but I don't know if he's.
So it doesn't have to go, it could go to the left or to, he owns to
He
the left or
doesn't really
right.
have that much.
I mean, it sounds like
He
there's a
doesn't have that much
combination
Or you
of
could put
problems
one
with
in
water
just
flow,
for
septic,
business.
and parking.
You could put one in
Probably
just
have to have
for
sufficient
business, for
justification
the
to
manufacturing
have some
business.
pretty substantial limits.
So
But-
from, in your opinion, Gina, from the town's perspective, do you feel that a fence on the boundary line would be beneficial to us?
I think it would be beneficial in the sense that it's gonna tell people where the boundary line is, yes. I mean, I think that would be beneficial in terms of also, I mean, so limitation placed by the planning board for a site plan has to have a reasonable, you know, rational relation to prohibiting something that's a, you know, legitimate concern of the board, which I think probably would be nighttime access or regular access to a public park by a large number of private individuals present for something else.
Now, in a special use permit, help me here, that is something that could be expected of Jonah, correct?
He has to have a special permit in order to operate.
Period.
But my point is that could be a condition to it, is that he has to put up a fence,
Yes.
correct?
Yes,
Yep.
we could
So
do that.
We got a lot of conditions in this one.
Well, this is one that I'm trying to seal up right now. especially. And along with that, though, I think I would like you guys' input as to what, I think it should be appeasing to use for what your presentation is. A snow fence is fine, it creates a boundary, but I don't think that's
I want it to
something
look
that,
nice.
that KECC would like. And I was basically, if you could communicate with them as to what's agreeable with you guys to establish that boundary, I think that's something that on behalf of the town needs to be done, on behalf of KECC, it needs to be agreeable to them. That's at least that established boundary point.
My question is, what kind of a fence does it have to be? As I say, could it be a snow fence? I mean, as I said, if somebody wants to get in, they're gonna get in. But if you just, 5 foot high fence down through,
Even
they
a
know where it
split rail
is,
fence.
Doesn't have to be barbed wire or
Could be
electric
split
wire.
rail, couldn't it? I mean, just something that's fairly attractive
I
going with it.
think, first of all, there needs to be a fence on behalf of the town, in my opinion, unless you feel otherwise, along the boundary line. What the fence is, I think KECC has a big input on. Okay, I think they have a place in this, because they take care of the rest of that property.
My other-
And there's a presentation that exists as for them.
Has to be,
So
nice.
with that, I think that's where that goes into play as far as, in my opinion, unless you think otherwise, but I think you working along with either planning or whatever, but I think that needs to be set forth as to what you would like to see. I mean, as far as from my standpoint, as well as use, please contribute. I just want there to be a solid established line as to where that boundary is. So when people that are guests that don't know any different, you step there and you look, it all looks as though it's one. They can clearly say, oh, there's clearly a boundary here. And I think something more than a stick in the ground with a sign on it,
Right.
in my opinion, is a better move. But that's not my sole decision.
And after 5 o'clock this time of year, you're not gonna see the sign anyhow.
Right.
Which,
Especially
but
Well, the
I
reason I
think
said
as-
signage was
As
because
Gina says, at
financially,
least we have an
it's gonna be
established
super
boundary
expensive
that's
for us to
clear
put
for
fence up.
everyone to see. And we can't fix everything, but at least we're establishing something.
Crank it down as tight as we can
And
get
if
it.
we cost share, I know KECC doesn't want to have to fund the whole bill of putting up a fence around our boundaries. My other question is, we maintain the grounds, so any damage that happens to the playground equipment and all that by those guests, what do we do there?
Well,
Because the playground equipment's getting old, and we are gonna have to replace it one of these days.
that's,
So if somebody breaks the slide, or breaks the
Exercise equipment.
exercise equipment, or whatever's down there, how do
I
we
mean, that,
protect?
it sounds an awful lot like a civil case to me, but
It sounds
please,
awful.
please
Yeah,
step
it's a
in
little
here.
so it's hard. So the difficulty that you're gonna run into is differentiating between these individuals than members of the public. So if it was a member of the public that broke
You
the
never gonna see
slide.
it, so more than likely.
Well,
precisely
we have
part
a
of the
really
problem.
good playground inspector, he's down there just about every day checking things out and picking up dog poop, so.
They have a lovely facility, Gina, I know.
And I
you
would love
probably
to
have-
have you see it,
It's,
I was
it's
gonna say, I'm happy to see it at
wonderful, it's
some
a
point.
wonderful thing.
I'm not sure
And
what's
it's
gonna
very
happen to
nice.
the fields when the
And
wells.
there is a
go in.
concern that
How many
it's,
feet we can get
it's
in there.
obviously, you
Right
know,
now.
I mean, I think the fencing would probably assist in that issue as well, right? I mean, if it was like a privacy type fence, something of that nature that isn't, people aren't gonna be able to easily climb over immediately.
So what's the privacy, how tall is the privacy?
Usually privacy fences are between 5 and 7 feet tall. We usually recommend 6 feet.
That's reasonable.
And then that way that also, because obviously on the opposite side of things, you don't want something that, someone using the park legally is gonna accidentally run into an electric fence or something of that nature. We obviously don't want that either. So the privacy fences tend to be, oh, I know, but the privacy fences tend to be very, very clear borders. They don't have gapping that allows people to get through. Obviously, again, they're members of the public, technically speaking, when they're here, so it's really hard in terms of if something gets broken, A, establishing who did it, and B, establishing that it's something they should be liable for damaging. But I think that'd be something you'd have to deal with as it
What are
happens,
the
if it happens.
stipulations in the KECC for the use of the park? Is that like a totally free
Anybody
park?
can use the park, we reserve a pavilion for $50.
Okay, so there's no stipulation in the bylaws that the park is just for the residents or the users?
It's a
for the-
community, it's town property, we just kind of maintain
It's a public
it.
park.
Okay,
Keep track of it.
yeah, I didn't know if there was a bylaw
Paint-
that said it was
paint the
designed
stuff.
for the use of the hamlet or
Keep track of it.
Franklin or whatever, I don't know.
I can bring you, we're working on, I'll bring you our new SOPs. It doesn't say anything specifically about.
Well, something to think about anyway, right? But the other thing that we all need to know is that if once an entity gets a special use permit, if Jonah should sell it to somebody else, that permit goes with it.
Oh,
So we're
Yeah.
talking in perpetuity with this. It's not like, well, this is a permit that's going to Jonah, this is a permit that's going with the property. So there's a really big picture that's involved in all of this, because Jonah may be totally honorable.
but the next people.
Don't choke on that.
Sorry. I didn't intend
But
to.
if the use changes,
Supposedly.
then you would have to do a
Yeah.
different
Do a different.
special
Yeah.
use permit.
Correct, but if they used it as manufacturing or didn't use the manufacturing, did it for an event, it would still be good.
Right.
Yeah.
Has anybody from Treadwell mentioned their concern about the traffic, the light, and the noise?
We have had very few
Very
people.
few
That
people.
surprises me,
Me too.
because
They had
every
more
time,
people complain
everything I
about-
hear is like,
Had more people complain about the 4 campsites up on top of the hill than they did.
really.
I mean, as soon as that public hearing was over, there's
I mean,
3
Jonah
people
hasn't been
still sitting there.
around, nobody's seen Jonah lately, so he hasn't been doing much in Treadwell other than.
Well, he's not
when he
gonna work on it
cleaned-
until he's got a
When he
permit.
cleaned out the
so.
building and
I mean, he can
stuff
start his
back.
manufacturing business if he
Alright.
wants.
This, I think we got pretty good feel. That's tomorrow night,
Yep,
planning board tomorrow night.
of course,
Or is
he's,
it possible for you or someone from
Yes.
KDCC to attend tomorrow night?
I will try to get somebody
All right,
else
thank
to
you.
come with me.
I think we've highlighted in Gina's help with some certain things that I think would be great for the planning board to also be included in from your behalf, okay? And with that, is there anything else, Dan, that you?
that's basically it, other, you know, I mean, you get a chance to read what was emailed to you, and you're gonna know exactly what he wants.
Yep, I know I've been through it, I'm assuming the others can't speak for them, but,
He's
I mean,
talking about that.
sometimes he's talking 500, 1,000 people. I said, where the hell are you gonna put 1,000 people? Now he wants it outdoors, indoors, and I'm going,
And
I
the
mean, this
outdoors
is
was
the
gonna
thing
flow
that's
down
been
onto the
is
flat with tents
these-
and
at least it sounds like from
permitting,
what I've
he was
gathered,
gonna
it's
have,
not an exact thing, at least the past few months, so that's kind of left everyone in limbo. And
well, we're gonna crank it to a certain point. If he wants to go bigger, he's gonna have to come back. And then he's gonna have to, you know, go through it all again.
So there's just gonna have to be some contingencies, that's all.
Excuse me?
Contingencies on, you know, this is the permit for this.
Right, this is what you
Yes,
can do.
understand.
If you wanna do something different
Vary
or
from
more.
that, yeah,
I mean, so far he hasn't done anything, so.
right, no, but I mean, we're talking when it happens.
Yeah.
Not gonna do anything until he gets permit, not gonna start spending money in there, put showers and stuff in there until he knows he can do it, so.
So what I'm understanding is, again, for the planning board, is that the town wants a fence provided by Mr. Shaw, differentiating between the KECC and the town property and the 5 acres that he owns in his buildings.
we,
The boundary
a
fence.
privacy fence
Yeah, boundary.
is correct,
At least 5 feet tall.
yes.
Okay,
His
Not gonna
expense.
jump that, so.
On his property.
On his
on
property,
his property.
which there were markers, they were
Yeah.
pretty, they were round things and round, you should be able to.
That is appealing.
Does he own that, most of it down to the back, bottom of the bank?
Well,
Yes,
if
because
he's
that's
gonna
his
have an
leach
event,
field,
I don't
there's
think
just
he
a
wants
few
to put
feet,
up
maybe
barbed
from
wire.
here to the
Well, I don't
wall.
think you want a snow fence.
Between the
either.
tennis
Probably owns
courts,
it.
it goes to the bottom of the bank.
When the stairs go
comes
down.
around.
He's very fluid.
Yeah,
Just sound like a start, Lori, that,
okay.
you
I
think,
can bring the
you
map, how
do you
about if I
think-
bring your map so you can see it, would that help?
you think KEC would be okay with that, don't you, though, a fence?
Oh, yeah, I'm all in
Okay.
favor of a fence.
All right, that's, there, we've got a couple things on that, okay, to start off with.
Alright,
All right.
I just wondered who's gonna be responsible, you're gonna put it on Jonah, the responsibility of
the
the
fence
fence?
is on his property, yep.
Anything else?
I mean, you know, you got the building,
All
gotta
right,
be able to spend a few dollars here and there. No, that's it. Except for the water.
Well,
We don't-
obviously, we had a successfully run election yesterday, and thanks, Sonia, for coordinating for the town, and
Yeah,
thanks for the use of this space.
it went smooth.
It was very smooth, we had, you know, minimal issues really, and it was very crowded. So I know that we've discussed this in the past, but this was a different kind of crowded because from the moment we opened until about 7:30, it was really, really busy. Privacy was very challenging for those voters who needed assist. And I know that we talked about other space, but maybe we could give it another think for the next big election. I don't think that we need another space for like primaries or local, but I do think that we need to think about how to accommodate for a larger crowd, because it was a challenge. But we got through it, and all was well.
Can Treadwell go back to Treadwell?
Let's say that's a hope.
Yeah, I also,
Okay.
I mean,
I'm not
I
making,
think it would be
I'm not
easier
making
for
any
Treadwell
promises
people
or
if
any
they could vote in
commitments, but
Treadwell.
let's just say that that's a hope. It's something that is definitely
On the books.
spun around in my mind a time or two, yes. And it's been mentioned in the past, actually, so I think it's, like I said,
I mean, that was just one more thing taken away from.
it's a hope, so, but, all right, anything else? All right, I need a motion for the executive session, please.
So we're done? Yep. We can leave?
Thank you.
You have to.
Seconded.
We're not gonna
Yeah,
have
we're
a
going to
meeting.
executive session once we get done. Paul,
Unless
can you
something
stay
comes
for
up that we
executive
might have.
session?
Go ahead, Sharon.
I'm just gonna.
Nothing big to say.
Any information?
Okay,
No.
all right, I need a motion for highway to approve the sander at $8,950 through,
Benton Truck Body.
do I have that motion?
So.
Seconded,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried, okay, Jamie?
Thank you.
Okay, I also need a motion made that we move some of our funds out of savings and into checking with Wayne Bank. Is that approved? I need a motion for that, please.
I'll make a motion that we diversify funds.
Seconded,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, Paul. Anything else? No? Okay, a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Seconded,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. Gonna go-